Carson Palmer, his appearance brought to you by the CBD trusted by professional athletes. Level Select CBD. Make sure you use the promo code DP30, $30 off your entire order today. Not available in Idaho, Iowa, and South Dakota. Go to levelselectcbd.com. As we say good morning, as we always do on Monday, to Carson Palmer, former NFL quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner. I was curious, if I go back to your days at USC when you knew you were going to be the number one overall pick, but let's say you were playing in the Peach Bowl, not a playoff game, would Carson Palmer of today play in a game like that?
I would have. Back then, it just wasn't heard of. I mean, really, nobody had really done it until Christian McCaffrey did it at Stanford. And I don't remember what bowl game it was, but it wasn't the Orange Bowl.
Sun
Bowl.
I
remember at the time, the Sun Bowl.
Yeah.
I remember at the time thinking, well, he should have a pretty good idea on what's right, knowing his dad's Ed McCaffrey and played in the league for a long time. So he's probably got some really good guidance on this. And being a running back and the hits they take and the pounding that they take and the possibility of injury is probably greater than a quarterback. But it just wasn't heard of until Christian McCaffrey did it. And now guys are doing it week in and week out as we get to bowl season. And you just don't know who's available. But back then when I was playing, it was just a chance to play one more game. At the end of the day in college football, you only get like 12 opportunities to put film out there to get drafted. So, you know, my mindset back then and a majority of all college football players' mindset was you need game film. You need opportunities and chances to shine and show what you can do for NFL teams to be able to draft you. So it was just one more opportunity to go out and perform and possibly get drafted higher.
Yeah, but you knew you were going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate or you were going to win the Heisman. You were going to be a top 5 pick. Do you play in a game? If you had that season at USC, would you be playing in a meaningless bowl game, a non-playoff game? Now, would you be like Kenny Pickett or would you be like Matt Corral?
I would play. I mean, I played in the Senior Bowl, which wasn't really for a championship or really anything, you know, for your college career. But the Senior Bowl came along and I got invited and I wanted to go and play and compete against those guys. I do understand it. I mean, I understand part of it. Guys don't want to get hurt. Guys don't want to hurt their draft stock. But now guys can also actually make money in college and put some money in the bank. So you've had an opportunity to earn some money and put some money away for the rest of your life. Now you're hearing about, you know, Bryce at Alabama, you know, has already made $1 million in college. So, you know, when you weigh in the fact that back in the day, you couldn't make any money and guys didn't miss the opportunity to play in bowl games. And now guys can make money and guys are dropping out of bowl games left and right because they're worried about their future earnings. So it's, you know, the correlation there doesn't make sense. I think you play. And if you really love playing the game and you love the opportunity to compete with your guys, the guys you came in with, your freshman class and all that, there's so many little added things that go into it that, you know, I have a tough time watching guys not play.
Aaron Rodgers was asked about playing against the Lions. They've wrapped up the number 1 seed in the NFC. And, of course, he's been battling the toe injury. And I was wondering, does he even play in this game? Your thoughts on Rodgers playing or not playing in a meaningless game against the Lions?
I think the most valuable player trophy means a lot more to Aaron than a lot of people realize. And I think he's still got a chance to win the MVP. He's possibly the front runner, if not in the top 3. He could use 3 or 4 more touchdown passes, another 400 yards, another statistically dominant performance in order to be in the running at the end of the year for the MVP. So I see him playing. And on top of that too, when we're talking about a little bone in your foot that's broken, that's not going to help. That in another week doesn't automatically fix that or change that. If it was a ligament issue or some damage to a muscle, maybe a hamstring pull or a quad pull, something like that, a week can be an immense amount of healing time. But when you're talking about a broken pinky toe or a broken foot, it's just not enough to miss an entire week's work and another chance to go out and statistically have a great day.
You're the first person to answer it, I think, correctly, and that is that MVP for Aaron Rodgers this year is an FU to a lot of people, and I think that that might be at the crux of this, that he can say to the Packers, hey, my foot, my toe, it's not going to get any better. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse, but we're a number one seed. I don't want to be not playing for 2 weeks, because if you don't play against Lions, you don't play in that first week of the playoffs. I want to be ready to go, and at the crux of this is probably, and it'd be nice to go back-to-back MVPs.
No doubt. I mean, he hasn't talked about it. He can't talk about it. Anybody that's played and been in his position before, that is extremely important. That's just another little piece of leverage as he moves into this offseason. We don't know which way he's going. It's just another little bit of leverage, and leverage is everything in this game.
Should Baker Mayfield play against the Steelers tonight?
Absolutely, 100%. Baker's got to prove himself, and unfortunately, he hasn't done enough to prove himself as being the future in the franchise and the long-term 6, 7, 8 year contract guy.
But he's injured though, Carson, and if he hasn't proven to you yet, I don't know if playing tonight against the Steelers does anything.
True. He can go out and operate at 60 or 70%, and 60 or 70% for Baker, isn't enough to beat a rivalry team in the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road. So no doubt, but knowing Baker, he's got that mentality. He's not going to let anybody, take his spot. He doesn't want, he doesn't want to have the opportunity to stand on the sideline and watch somebody else play his position. He's very competitive. He's ultra competitive. So I think he plays, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I wonder about it because he hasn't played well, and you're playing against Steelers. It'll be big. I know it's a rivalry game, but it's a game that doesn't really mean anything. I don't know. It feels like he could do more harm than good. Speaking of which, Antonio Brown. Do you have any idea who he is?
Yeah, he's a constant distraction. I mean, now, Dan, we talk every week, and I talk all the time about just these distractions, this issue that this team has to answer questions. Mike Evans, Tom Brady, Fournette, all these guys, they're going to be talking about Antonio Brown all week. Bruce Arians is going to go into he's got 3 pressers this week. Every press conference he's going to go into, he's got to talk about Antonio Brown, and it's just another distraction. Unfortunately, I think we've seen the last Antonio Brown. I'd be shocked if somebody else gave him another opportunity. But really, really disappointed. I mean, he was such a great player. He blew so many opportunities and really got in his own way. He consistently got in his own way in Pittsburgh, and we saw what happened there. He got in his own way in Oakland, Las Vegas. We saw what happened there. He now got in his own way in Tampa, and the third time's the charm. I think we've seen the end of one of the most talented, athletically given receivers that I've had the opportunity to watch with my eyes on a field, and it's just unfortunate.
We're talking to Carson Palmer, former NFL quarterback. I go back to that cheap shot by Vontaze Burfict, and I don't know if one hit changes you, but it felt like, and I could be way off a base here, but it felt like that he became something different then, or something happened to him. And maybe he was a diva all the time, but I don't know. Just I still go back to that. And I thought about that yesterday as he's leaving the field. I go back to that shot he took from Vontaze Burfict.
I disagree. I don't think it's one hit. I don't think it's one play. I think it's a combination of fame, money, power. He got a taste of that. He was an undrafted guy or a late round draft pick from a school that a lot of people, didn't know had a football team. He started off on the practice squad. He worked his way up. He went from no fame to one of the most famous players in the NFL in those couple of years there in Pittsburgh. And some guys, it's just too much to handle. Some guys can't deal with it. Unfortunately, the more fame, the more respect, the more power he's gotten to be able to show up and not want to put cleats on, or whatever that issue was in Las Vegas with his cleats and his burnt feet. Once you get a taste of that fame and that power, unfortunately, some guys can't handle it. And it just looks like he couldn't handle it because the situation was so good with John Gruden there playing for the Raiders and Derek Carr, and that system would have been so good. Not that the system wasn't so good for him with Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. I mean, another great situation. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall with Ben, getting older and going downhill, but there he was in playing for the Raiders in a great situation. Then New England, And then Tampa. I mean, the situations and the quarterbacks he's had a chance to play with, not everybody gets that opportunity. And not very many guys would absolutely ruin those opportunities. And we've seen him consistently ruin every opportunity he's gotten.
Matthew Stafford fascinates me and worries me, all in the same game, and not necessarily in that order, Carson. What concerns do you have, if any?
Well, just like you said, the inconsistencies. I mean, some of the balls he throws, there's only 2 or 3 other guys in the league can actually throw that ball. And then some of the balls he throws, there's a whole bunch of guys across the country that could throw those and make that decision. It's at some point, we're starting to get into past that point of where it's a new team, it's a new offense, it's a new system, they're new receivers. He's had plenty of time to consistently work with those guys and develop rapport and trust and respect with those guys. Unfortunately, there's times he just doesn't look on the same page where he's expecting a guy to be a little higher in a route or a little flatter in a route, and he's off one way or the other. So we're getting to that point where it is starting to be concerning because they've had plenty of time to work and develop that relationship and that rapport. Unfortunately, we're getting to that time where one of those decisions, one of those errant throws can cause you to go home and no longer play in the playoffs. So it's absolutely concerning. They have enough talent. They have enough just raw athletes on both sides of the ball to overcome one of those in the playoffs. But when you start talking about 1 or 2 of those decisions in the playoffs, those can bite you in the butt.
How do you utilize Cooper Kupp? Because he's not your prototypical number 1 wide receiver, wide guy, speed guy. So as a quarterback, how do you utilize? Well, I know they've done a pretty good job because he's got 1,800 yards this year. But what is it? How do you utilize somebody who doesn't necessarily beat you with great speed?
You just get the ball in his hands. Get the ball in his hands. Give him as many chances. He had a play. He had a 6 or 7 yard gain on 3rd down, and it looked like he was going to step out of bounds. And somehow, some way, he made a cut back inbounds and got another 15 or 20 yards out of a play where you're just going, there's nothing left in this play except for a guy like Cooper Kupp who can just, like a magician, find a way to almost step out of bounds, but cut back against the grain and make 3 guys miss. You don't got it. It's not about running 4.2. It's not about a 45-inch vertical jump. It's about when the ball is in your hands, what do you do with it? And he consistently, from week 1 of his rookie year until right now, he's consistently made plays. He's consistently created separation to get open. And then his yak and yards after the first touch, I mean, he's breaking tackles, he's spin moving, he's cutting against the grain. He may not be the prototypical 4.2, 42-inch vertical guy, but he's a number 1, he's a number 1 threat from a receiver position in just about every offense across the league. Everybody would take him.
Great stuff. Great to talk to you again, Carson, and we'll talk to you next week. Happy New Year to you and the family.
Thanks, Dan. Happy New Year.
That's Carson Palmer, his weekly appearance during the NFL season, brought to you by our partner, Level Select CBD. Looking for next level relief, visit levelselectcbd.com.